Every day when I drive to campus, I come in on State Route 113, go by Riverside Hospital, left on Court Street and left on Kennedy, and I come up Kennedy towards school. The last month, they've been fixing the road on 113, and what I mean by that is it's a total repavement of a stretch of probably 3 miles on 113 that goes from Court Street all the way out past Tower Road, out towards Limestone Township. Kennedy, when I turn left on Kennedy, it goes from 4 lanes to 2. They've got holes dug up, they're filling in concrete, and they're patching potholes. And that's the difference between the approach of these 2 construction crews. One is doing a total repair on the road on 113. Patching potholes was doing no good anymore. They needed a new road, so they fixed the road. Fixing the road. As we listen to the stories that Jesus tells us, they're giving us windows again into what the kingdom of God is like. And I'm going to be honest with you, this week in chapel, I received another one of those windows. I saw things in the way I hadn't really seen them before, through a very familiar story. But there was a new take to it. I listened to Gabe's message in chapel last week, and it's a story that Jesus told that we're familiar with, a story called the Good Samaritan. And that right there was oxymoronic, because every Jew knew there was no such thing as a Good Samaritan. And Gabe kind of gave a reference to something I hadn't seen before in telling this story. It's there, I just hadn't seen it. He went beyond in this story of the priest and the Levite. Remember, he talked about how they didn't walk around him. The road was so narrow, they had to literally step over him. He even went beyond the Samaritan and the good things that the Samaritan did. He didn't say that the problem in this road between Jerusalem and Jericho was the robbers. He said the problem was the road. The underlying issue that people had in that day was the road between Jerusalem and Jericho. It caused me to ask some questions. Was this road always a dangerous road to travel on? When did it become dangerous? How did that happen? What was responsible for this well-traveled, populated, busy road to become so dangerous? And why did they let it happen? Well, the Samaritan's called good because of the way he responded, and he did a good thing. And we talked last week about our personal responsibility to step in and meet the need around us is important for us. That kind of focuses, though, if I can stretch the metaphor a little bit, on potholes, fixing potholes. But maybe for those of us seeking to live in the way of Jesus, we're called to do more than fix potholes. It's the difference you can see between what they've done on 113 and what they're doing on Kennedy. See, fixing potholes can be an annual event. I grew up in Michigan, and we used to joke there that from May until September it was pothole season, because orange barrels would show up everywhere, and they weren't completely repaving the roads, but they were fixing the potholes. But potholes only reveal the deeper issues that are taking place under the surface. If you go down by Court Street on Kennedy and you see the big holes that they've cut out, you can see where they have stopped cutting. There's still separation in the layers there. So you remove some parts, and it just reveals how broken the other parts still are. Removing large sections of concrete doesn't fix the road, it just fixes the hole. But you can still see the weakness in other parts of the road. But when you fix the road, when you dig up the old pavement and you put down a coat of oil and you go over it with the first and the second pavement and then you repaint it, you have fixed that road for years. Not a year, but for years. For the sake of our tires, potholes need to be fixed. But sometimes you need to go deeper. You need to do the thing that will cost you more. You need to fix the road. I'm recording this the day after we received the news of the charges in the Breonna Taylor case. For some, this is a pothole. It's a bump in the road. But for many, it reveals something that has been at work below the surface for, well, centuries. This isn't a bump, but rather another in a long list of issues that people of color continue to navigate in a country that has a difficult time admitting it has issues. This road needs to be fixed. Patches won't work. They're like placing a Band-Aid on a hemorrhage. I know this situation's multi-layered. I'm not trying to objectify anyone, call anyone out, say someone's ignorant. I'm just saying what it is. I know there's a lot to learn. I have a lot to learn. But I wonder if it's time we stop approaching this like it's a flesh wound and dig deeper to fix the problem. I read an article, well, several weeks ago now by Theon Hill, who is a professor at Wheaton, and he was a guest in chapel last fall. He's black. He lives in Aurora, and he took part in the protests and marches with his young son, who I think he said is 4. In the article, he expressed his sense of exhaustion in the wake of the murder of George Floyd, also expressing what I'll quote, his total loss of hope for racial reconciliation. Total loss of hope. When I read that in Christianity Today, my heart broke. He can't see the end of diminishing the value of a person simply because of the color of their skin. The events of this last week are another case in point, with his feelings unfortunately validated. He expressed fear and sadness for his son, and I was sad too, but I got to tell you something. I don't know, maybe I'm naive, but I'm not willing to give up hope. I want to believe we can be and are better than that. Because of what's happened over the last week, I think who we are hangs in the balance, and I know some of you think there's no balance left, but I guess I'm a prisoner of hope and I can't give up. I understand I'm not the one being oppressed. We can't go to Louisville, but how we respond here matters. So for those seeking to live in the way of Jesus, we need to be better. We need to listen and we need to learn. We need to realize that our black friends on campus, for them, this has been a difficult week. It has been heavy for them. They're tired. So here's what I want to say to you. Pray for them, certainly, but don't just pray for them. Express sorrow with them. Cry with them. Stand with them. Carry them. The weight is heavy for them. Again, this pothole, quote unquote, has exposed deeper issues whether our country acknowledges it or not. And for the sake of the kingdom and those claiming to live in the way of Jesus, we need to seek each other, to see each other as Paul describes in this family, saying that there is no difference between Jew or Greek, slave or free, male, female. We are one. We either mean something to each other or we don't. And I can't speak for everyone, but I can speak for the one student that talked to me this week, who said that he felt like a little more of his life was stripped away. And again, my heart broke. So I want you to hear again the words of Paul to a broken church in Corinth that was navigating life, not too unlike we are. The words that Paul wrote to them in the 12th chapter, the words of the apostle. The way God designed our bodies is a model for understanding our lives together as a church. Every part dependent on every part. The parts we mention and the parts we don't. The parts we see and the parts we don't. If one part hurts, every other part is involved in the hurt and in the healing. If one part flourishes, every other part enters into the exuberance. If one part hurts, every part hurts, but is also involved in the healing. That's where we step in. That's the role that we play. So what can we do? What is a tangible way that we can seek to understand? First, just become aware. Become aware of the things that we say and the things that we do that even as side comments or jokes sometimes are hurtful. Just become aware. it's nothing maybe we're intentional about, but they're just things that we do. Begin to listen. Show up this Thursday at 7 o'clock at the Plex for our first conversation on race and justice with Gabe Sogero. Come to listen and participate in this important conversation to help us better express who Jesus is and what his kingdom is like here. We are on, as Eugene Peterson says, a long journey in the same direction. So we don't get it perfect, but I want to die trying. We can't be spectators in this anymore. This is my battle too, our battle, because it's our friends, it's our brothers and sisters. We are involved in the pain, and Paul says involved also in the healing. Listen, today, there's pain among us. Our friends are hurting again. The question is, will we care? Grace and peace.